Hey, she's not gonna.
Water.
I'm good, thank you.
Water.
Just checking on it.
I'm good.
Oh. Didn't put on the
I don't know, he gave me some kind of little gold pill.
Hey, I'll be gone. I was worried in a minute. Who
Just kind of like color me, Lord, please.
Letting it come.
Need a motion and second to adopt tonight's agenda.
Mr. Mayor, can we have a closed session on personnel?
You
We
can't.
sure can.
No, you can't. It's a special meeting. You cannot add to a special.
And add to the special.
You sure?
I'm positive. It's a special called meeting. It's advertised for that purpose. You cannot add it.
Well, we'll just break the law and talk about it afterwards then.
Okay. Motion and second to adopt tonight's agenda.
I make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. That motion carries. Review and award bid for ARPA SRP WARP Park Screen and Conveyor Project. Heather Miller. Hey Heather, how are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you doing this evening?
Great. Stop drinking them pony bottles.
Miller
20
ponies.
years, 20 years ago.
Miller ponies.
Yeah.
My understanding, have the memo from a couple of weeks ago. So I'm just kind of gonna go through, start with the bar screen, some of the information that I included on here, and some of the additional information I have found out since this memo has been written. So on Thursday, January 9th, 2025, bids were taken for the bar screen screw conveyor replacement project. The bids were high over the amount of funding available. The initial engineer's estimate and funding request that was submitted to the state was submitted 2.5 years ago. So we all know within these last 2.5 years, especially in our industry, the inflation has been very unpredictable. So in order to move this project forward and get the bar screen screw conveyor, 2 feasible options were discussed with DWI. The first option that I presented to DWI was to allow the town to use the available funds to purchase the bar screen screw conveyor themselves, and then allow you to contract out that work to install the unit. The second option presented was a request for funds to be moved from the identify and repair infiltration and inflow project within the wastewater collection system, which is another one of the funded projects, to the bar screen screw conveyor replacement project to fund the overage of the bids. The DWI reviewer spoke to his supervisor, who was Chris Grable, was the gentleman I spoke with, to his supervisor, who was Tony Evans, and the supervisor stated that the second option presented the, quote, sounds like best choice, sounds like the best choice option. The way to request a funding transfer from one project to another would simply be a letter from the town's authorized representative. If this option is decided upon, I have attached in that packet the funding request letter for review and signature. This letter should be printed off on town letterhead and signed. So when allocating, and I just kind of went through a little bit of how we allocated the funds for all these projects. So when allocating the available funds, which was done with the interim town manager, sat down with him to allocate the funds and determine the projects. So when allocating the available funds, the I&I project was the last project discussed, and the funds allocated to it ended up being whatever the remaining funds were after determining the cost for the other projects. So a majority of those funds are to cover the cost of any major repairs and or line and manhole replacement costs, and these costs won't be known until after the completion of the cleaning, CCTV, and smoke testing portion of the project, their respective reports written and reviewed. So to cover the cost of the bid plus the required contingency that DWI always requires one to add to the project after the fact when you provide them with the project bid information submittal. The additional cost that would be required was approximately $122,200 to be reallocated from the I&I project to the bar screen screw conveyor project. There is also another third option, and that would to be rebid the project and see if the prices come in lower. And then also with this, I think it would be prudent to do a review of the scope of the project to see if there's any way to lower the cost. So when the scope and the cost of the project was discussed with the interim town manager, the project involves simply the removal and replacement of the existing bar screen. Pull it out, put another one in. But during the bidding process, it was determined a new level sensor was needed to measure the flow coming into the bar screen screw conveyor so that it did not continuously run. And so a large cost, those items, pieces of equipment can cost $50,000 to $60,000 just for that piece of unit. And so the addition of that sensor, again, along with the inflation over the past years, contributed to an increased bid price. So included with all that packet, depending upon which route you wanted to take, I did submit a recommendation of award letter, certified bid tab, and a resolution of tentative award. And again, the approval of the resolution of tentative award, the recommendation of award letter can be postponed until confirmation of approval of the transfer of funds or a decision is made on how to move forward. I will say that, not to move off of this, but a couple weeks ago we had the pre-construction meeting for the water line project. So that project will begin within the next couple weeks. The DWI inspector for that project was very helpful in providing some insight on how to obtain additional funds. Apparently, with this round of ARPA funds that they have, 2 times a month, you can submit a request for additional funding for projects that have already been bid. So if you bid the project, it comes in over, you can submit a request to get additional ARPA funds in order to cover the overage. And with that information, that would be my suggestion before we move forward with moving any money around, is to apply for those additional funds. And I have provided Ms. Jenkins with a letter, which is a narrative as to, the bid price, how much you're over, the reasons to kind of justify the need for the project in general, and then for the additional funds.
And what kind of time frame?
They they review projects twice a month. So they will, within 2 weeks, before the next round of submitted requests comes in, they should make a determination.
So that seems like a no-brainer if you know in 2 weeks or a month.
Correct. Before that's what I would suggest. Again, I have that letter and all the attachments ready to go, if that's the route we choose to go.
Troy, anywhere you want to wade in?
I was just disappointed that they were not gonna let us purchase direct.
And put it ourselves?
Yeah, I was a little disappointed they weren't gonna let us do that, or that's not what they're.
And I also, I can push more. That was their initial, no, we don't want you to do that. The second one's the better choice. But I would be, willing to, of course, push that issue with them again if that's also the route we want to try to obtain.
What's the reason that they don't?
He did not give me a reason. I think that's because you're using funds outside of then what would be the project because we went through this whole bidding process. And so now we're going to kind of cut out that bidding process that DWI requires you to do and kind of do something outside their box in order to obtain the equipment. That's going to be my guess.
So you don't really know?
That I don't know, but I could definitely ask.
How much was the equipment by itself?
The equipment by itself was approximately $70,000.
How much?
$70,000.
So big money.
Yeah. So you have the $70,000, and then you have the $50,000 to $60,000 just for that ultrasonic level sensor. That adds, a considerable cost to the project.
Heather, was that 70,000 the 2.5-year-old price?
That was not the 2.5-year-old price.
That's recent.
That's recent price, yes.
So 125,000 versus 200 and whatever.
Yes.
Yeah. Don't take rock size, put it in there, Troy.
The challenge, I believe, is the ultrasonic sensor. That's gonna be the challenge. It's nothing that I would want to undertake.
Yeah.
I don't think our crew could undertake it. It needs to be a professional, but, no.
But it's two separate things, basically, right? It's the,
Yes, sir, one just operates the other.
right. So you get that on in, then they come and put the sensor on, something like that.
Yes, sir. But I don't know if I'm misspeaking here, but I can understand where the state is coming from on this, and that there is a system in place, the bidding and all of that, and here we are saying, well, if you don't like that, or we don't like that, so we want to go off on our own. I mean, there's a system in place for a reason, so I can understand where the state's coming from. I just don't agree with it.
Heather, can we do a two-prong?
Yes.
Can
You want me to follow can we put in put in yourself and additional funds?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Like I said, I have, on my drive up here, have a couple other items I want to add into that letter to help better, quote, plead our case. But I will get that typed up, send it over to Ms. Jenkins tomorrow, and I can get it submitted tomorrow.
Sounds good.
So if that's the way that you guys wanna do it, will you do that as a motion for her?
Yeah, I'm gonna take a motion, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? That motion carries.
And then I will also continue with the documents that might be needed if they say no and we need to transfer funds. I will continue with that. That is another narrative.
So the money we should find out in 30 days.
I would say I've been told they distribute funds every 2 weeks. The next due date is Friday.
Okay.
So I would think within 2 weeks.
We'll make the Friday due date.
Yes, we will. I'm going to get it in tomorrow.
Okay. And when you think we might find out if we can put it in ourselves? Is that another? I'm going to talk to the DWI inspector for the water line project because she has been the most responsive, the most easy to talk to, and she calls me back. So I will reach out to her to find out because she has most definitely been the most helpful for all these projects. Okay. What you got next?
Okay. So I'll just go through the other projects really quickly also. I briefly touched on the water line project. All the paperwork we have received, the authorization to award. I received signed contracts tonight, so I will get those back to the contractor. We have had a pre-construction meeting, all the submittals are in. They plan on starting within the next 2 weeks. And they have said they will be hitting it hard and expect to be done before, I think it's a 90-day contract date. They're anticipating being done sooner than that. So they're here to get it done. They have been waiting for this project not as long as y'all have, but they're very anxious to get it started just as much as you are.
And they're already down, we're handy doing work for them anyway.
Yes. So they're here. They're here ready to go.
Do you want to tell them that we're gonna request additional?
That's right, thank you. And then also we're gonna do the additional request for funds because that project was over as well. And to alleviate that, we were gonna remove Carroll Avenue. It's 164 feet of pipe we were replacing. But we are going to request additional funds for that project as well through this same process. I'm gonna do the bar screen one first so they see that one first. And then I'll slide the water lines in there. Yeah. And then I believe in your packet, the wastewater treatment plant study modification study was included also.
May not have been. Did you, I don't think we have that. I'll give it to them. We'll give it, if you wanna review it, I'll give them all that printed information at Monday night's meeting.
Okay.
That's all we're looking at.
Keith Garbrick with our office, did this, treatment plant study. He came up with 3 different options. And, treatment plant work is not my forte, so I'm gonna try to explain it to you, as I explain it to myself. So his first option was to abandon the 0.3 MGD facility and repurpose the unit, so you would be able to use the newer portion of the treatment plant, and then use the existing 0.3 MGD oxidation ditch as a equalization basin for managing peak flow conditions. And then there are figures included with everything. And if you want, I can leave this with you tonight if you wanted to be able to look at it. The option number 2 is modify the existing facility while maintaining the current discharge capacity. This essentially is isolating both oxidation ditches and kind of making them separate. The existing facility would be modified to maintain its discharge capacity while allowing operational flexibility. So some of those modifications would require additional infrastructure to completely isolate the two plants, a new flow splitter box, installing a variable speed booster pump to serve the older facility to ensure compatibility with the hydraulic conditions, because that's one of the reasons the elevations of some of the different equipment, because of the differences in the elevation from kind of both oxidation ditch sections, that's why they're not both working. And so that would help kind of equalize everything out. And then the third option is to upgrade and integrate the existing 0.3 MGD facility. So this is similar to option 2, and it focuses on modifying the existing facility while again maintaining its discharge capacity. And so the improvements involved with this one is completely full isolation of both plants, installing a booster pump, control systems, and then also upgrading the 0.3 MGD facility in order to meet the current discharge requirements. And so that would include equipment replacement, including the aerators, electrical systems, structural upgrades in order to comply with modern standards, regulatory standards. So that is very brief because
Has any of those got any prices with them?
he does not have any prices right now. Each option, he says, presents distinct advantages and challenges, and the choice will depend on key factors such as budget, regulatory feasibility, and long-term operational goals. And so he recommends 4 different points to look at: conducting a cost-benefit analysis of each option to determine the financial viability, engaging with regulatory agencies to assess permitting challenges, trying to upgrade everything. There may be some permitting challenges with that in order to make sure everything meets code. Evaluating long-term wastewater treatment demands to ensure future wastewater capacity needs are met. And then scheduling stakeholder meetings to align on preferred solutions. And so, if there wants to be a discussion of option 1, 2, 3, if you want us to look at all 3 of them, if you want us to look at 2 of your preferred options, he can get moving on that as well. With the caveat, whatever costs we give today, in the future may increase, but then they may decrease.
Mayor, may I speak?
Sure. Absolutely.
Option 1 is a non-starter. We have an NPDES permit, and unless we're going to expand the size of the 0.5 million gallon oxidation ditch, we can't alter our NPDES permit If we tried to alter it down to 0.5, we would fail miserably in our flow. So we have to maintain our 0.8 MGD rating. And the only two options is options 2 and 3, but option 1 is just, it would never work because that would require us to change our NPDS permit. No way is the state going to let us do that. Not to mention, we would not be able to add houses or industry, or we just don't have the capacity.
Yeah, we definitely don't want to drop capacity.
Yeah, and he does say that the approach for option 1 would necessitate modifications to the MPDS discharge permit. And he says that reducing permitted flow is generally not advisable, as re-permitting to increase capacity in the future would require more regulatory effort to do so. So. Would you like a copy of that?
And
I can-
we'll send a copy out with their packet. Thank you.
Joey, which option do you prefer?
3.
3.
I do. I've always thought that running the plant as 2 separate plants would be the best option. And I think the only mistake they made in '99 when they went through it is the pump that they added was not a variable frequency drive. So it was either on 100% or off. And it could not operate because of the level differences. So I believe if they improve the design of the 0.3 mg oxidation ditch, raise the sidewalls, add a variable frequency drive, I think it'll operate as 2 separate plants, and I think we'll be golden. And let me tell you, it's going to help with of course, it's not going to reduce the I&I. We need to do that anyway in the system, but we'll be able to better treat the water. I mean, we'll have more capacity. We're doing it now with almost half the size that it should be. But my opinion would be number 3.
What do you think, Ed?
Obviously, number 3 is going to give you the best long-term solution. Upgrading everything, maintaining that capacity, ensuring you can use the entire plant as it was intended. So, yes, I agree that option 3 is the best. Option 2 is a version of option 3, which does separate the plants, would separate them into 2 plants. Just looking at this, it would probably be a slightly cheaper option, just because of not as much rehabilitation of the existing equipment and structures needed with that one. But for long term, it could be prudent to look at, option number 3 to attempt to do the whole thing so that you don't have to revisit this again in a few years.
Yeah, where it says here to manage the flow conditions dynamically and the discharge requirements to meet the current discharge requirements.
I'd say I'd focus on item 3, or option 3, Mayor.
Definitely.
And if we can't go, we'll back up.
Okay, yep, I will. Mr. Garber has been out with the flu all week, so, well, man down. So I will definitely send him a message to start looking at costs
3.
to do all that for option number 3. Yep.
Great.
And I will push him to have something by the April meeting to review. And the last project is speaking of minor, the Town of Denton identification and repair of infiltration and inflow into the wastewater collection system project. So a question that I have asked DWI a number of times is what type of project drawings and specifications are needed for approval and submittal, because this is their standard
operating procedure. You submit plans and specifications for approval, they give approval, you can do your project. However, we would not have any sort of, and I have tried to explain this to them many times, we will not have any drawings. We don't know to what extent any repairs will need to be done on the system until after we've done all the cleaning, the CCTV, the smoke testing, written the reports, looked at the reports, determined where, you know, the most trouble spots are throughout the town. So in the reply that I received after explaining that many times, it was stated that because of the nature of the project, a submittal was needed outlining the scope of work for the CCTV, smoke testing, and cleaning, in addition to a statement regarding intent to conduct point repairs at the time. If we find small little things that need to be fixed, they would allow us to do point repairs. And then this submittal would be called phase 1. So they were requesting I submit a phase 1 talking about the smoke testing, cleaning, CCTV. After the phase 1 cleaning, assessment, and point repairs are completed, then a phase 2 plans and specifications submittal detailing any major repairs or line manhole replacement, rehabilitation would then be needed for the review and approval process. So I submitted a project scope for that phase 1, and it was submitted for review. Upon review, it was again asked to submit project drawings and specifications for review. So once again, the reasoning for not submitting project drawings and specifications was relayed to the reviewer with the statement and an attachment of the email that said I just needed to provide a scope discussing the work to be done as phase 1. So I had a call with Chris Graybill, who was the reviewer who I've been dealing with on this project, on January 23rd. And he stated that he talked to more senior engineers and reviewers with DWI who suggested the work associated with phase 1 be included in the engineering contract for the project, with the engineer using a subcontractor to complete the work. If the work associated with phase 1 is included with the engineering contract for the project, phase 1 of the project would not need to go through the review process with DWI. And all communication regarding reimbursement for this phase of the project would be handled directly with the DWI accounting department. And then phase 2 of the project, where there's any major repairs to the line or manholes or replacements, would then require plans and specifications to be submitted for review and approval by DWI. To say if I would have gotten this answer over the last year asking about the submittal, that would have been helpful. We have it now, and I'm waiting on updated costs from who we would have been using for, who we plan on to be using for the subcontracting work for the CTV cleaning. And once I get those numbers, if approved and acceptable, I will include that in an engineering contract, and then they can begin work immediately without having to get any sort of approval from DWI.
And we'll get that when?
I'm supposed to be getting those numbers by the end of the week.
So I assume you can't use the 14 studies we've had done in the past?
We have the one study. However, I was requested with this funding to re-look at to look over the entire system, because the entire system was not included in the last I&I study that was done in 2020. It was only certain areas. And in some of those, and I have looked at that report, there are some areas where they were filled with water and they couldn't finish the project, that there was too much debris, so they couldn't finish the CCTV. And so there were a lot of areas that they attempted to do some sort of CCTV and they were unable to finish that run of pipe. And so even with the reports that we do have, some of those areas would have to be redone.
I guess wait on your figures.
Yes, sir. I do have the figures, but they are from last year when we first started this project. And again, I don't want to be surprised by numbers coming in higher in an attempt to get the most accurate number.
Yeah, if you're gonna give them a few days, that'll do.
Yes, I have requested that I have them by the end of the week.
So we may have Monday night.
I will work to get because the scope is pretty much done, other than having to add in those numbers. That is all I have. Unless anybody has any questions.
So you have nothing else, covered everything.
Yes, sir.
Great. Good job.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody got any questions? Yeah.
This was actually attached to what you gave us
Oh, okay.
before.
All right.
So-
Because we gotta spend this money within so many, right?
By December 31st, 2026.
Because we've had this money 3 or 4 years, we hadn't turned the shovel of dirt yet.
Correct. So all projects.
On anything, not just your projects, on any projects. Have we turned any shovel of dirt yet on all these projects?
On the ARPA fund projects, no.
None.
Mhm.
On the ARPA projects, no. That's what LaBella's working with. That's what we've been going down the rabbit hole on with DWI.
And again,
But now that she has a contact that actually came on site with us with the water rehab pre-construction meeting, she was very helpful and said that if we cannot get information moving forward, to please contact her, and she would make sure that the information gets to where it needs to be so that we can keep moving forward. But with the projects that we have, there should be no reason that we can't have these completed by next December. I mean, water project is to roll out in the next 2 weeks. I&I should be forthcoming, and then the oxidation ditch.
yeah, I would imagine even the I&I project should be done by the end of this year, depending upon, what the level of plans and specs that might need to be reviewed based upon the reports and the studies from the testing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, yes.
Anything that we need to talk about? All the others here.
No, but we haven't talked about other projects, Angel.
We really can't talk about anything that's not on the agenda.
Okay, next time, will you put the agenda so other items can be addressed? We used to do that all the time. So
You
we
cannot
can
do
do
that during a special call meeting. You have to state the purpose for the meeting, and it has to be specific as to what we are going to be discussing in that meeting.
Okay, next time I'll have about 10 things specific.
Okay, as long as it's specific, we can talk about it, but we cannot talk about it outside of that, because it's what's advertised for the meeting. We can definitely update everything Monday night. We can do everything
Cool.
else.
Excuse me. Troy, you got anything to talk about?
No, sir. I'm good.
That being said, I guess we're adjourned.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Adjourned.